but I got perspective.
All the times felt so sad and lonely. There wasn't just that one place I was so never alone. And all the time so low down dirty. There's still just no one place I could always call my own. For always meant for me, and I miss you. How can't you hear just how I miss you? And why not be what you have, and you made me say your life and love, 'cause I just think that you're pretty. Oh, you think so pretty, and I just think that you're pretty. Oh, you think you're so pretty, I just know that you're pretty, and then I miss you. How can't you hear just how I miss you? I tried to tell you just what I'm all about, and I got you to listen. You wanna make you shout, and I'm thinking I'm back on all of the yesterdays, and the touching of your hand, smile on that face. For hours meant for me, and I miss you. How can't you hear just how I miss you? For always meant for me. For always meant for me.
To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Lack of perspective. Helping you along the way. Helping you to make it through another day.
Well, hello and welcome. Excuse me. Tonight is Praise Report Friday, and I think we had a great week. I know that I did. I hope that everybody had a wonderful week and that you are ready to go into this weekend completely ready to take some time away. This evening, we have an exceptional guest with us, and his name is Anthony VanZant. Now, you guys may all know him from the chat, and that beautiful song that we just heard was him. Isn't that awesome? He is mesmerizing, as Sharon Cat says. Yes, Sharon, he is mesmerizing and very talented, as Leaf Desi says. Yes. I'm so glad to see you guys. The most talented chat in the room, she says. Yes. Good evening, family. I've been looking forward to this. Oh, much love to Anthony VanZant. And there is the beautiful Sharon Marie. How are you? It's so good to see you. I'm so glad to see everybody. Amy was the first in the house today. It's good to see you. Nick Smith, long time no see. I think you were here not long ago and I saw you in passing. Maybe I was going to another button, but I think I saw you, but it's good to see you. I'm glad that you are here. Oh boy, you guys are in for a treat. While he is coming to the stage, I'm going to give you guys another bit of a treat so that you guys can know those that labor among you a little bit better. His praise report is one that is life-changing. Once you listen to everything that he's gone through, I want you guys to watch this video. It is a documentary, and it is about Anthony VanZant. All right, I'm going to leave him to tell you guys all of his information and all that good stuff, but here you go. This documentary is about and with Anthony VanZant.
There's something about music that I have been missing all these years, about the necessity of music in people's lives to get them from this stage of transition to the next stage of transition. Like, you know, as a healing tool or as a kind of getting over a bad moment tool.
I came to a fork in the road where the current road I was on, which was leading me to want to jump in front of a train, I was a goner from addiction, or I was going to choose recovery. But that very next step in the actual moment was going to be me.
All the times felt so sad and lonely, and there was just no one place I was so never alone. And all of the times so low down dirty, and there's still just no one place I could always call my own. say when you're laughing low, 'cause I just know that you're great.
Wise man once told me one things about this and that. You have to have this to have that. And he used an analogy that I use periodically. If we all had a skyscraper, it wouldn't be such a big deal to have a skyscraper. So we can't let everybody have one. This street is just lined up with our unfortunates. Ones that for one reason or another they can't seem to get housing, are less than as far as material value, material worth that they had. And those left in the streets. What's going on, man? Yeah, I feel despair. I can feel it when somebody has it. Just when I'm playing it, it's hard to explain, but it's the feeling of everything is connected. That third person overview really helps for me to joystick myself through this particular conundrum I sit in from a very appropriate bench. I'm still very much homeless. Once I lost my place in here, the rest of it became a knee-jerk reaction to fallout. Homelessness, rather than you going to it envelops you. You fall to a place where you can't find the need to maintain yourself or your environment. And you end up over there and over there and over there. This becomes your living room, so to speak. Home to me is a place where when I close the door and I look out the window, there isn't anybody in view looking for their own place to close the door of their own place and look out the window. That's home for me. When there's no more giving alone a home in our streets, giving alone a home in our hearts for those that have been abandoned or neglected. The old and ill, those with mental health issues, and no direction, no support. When there's none of our shelters that asked our seniors to leave at 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning on a day like this. When there's no more of that outside my window, that'll be my home.
And here we go. All the time I've been there, and all those times I faded. Oh, all those times, and then that'll make you cry. Ooh, and I really wanna be there. I have to do.
Last night was uneasy. On such a cold evening, knowing what you're coming out into the morning, it makes for a lot of angst. It makes for some of the most unhappy people with such little hope that you've ever seen. These are veterans, these are senior citizens, these are fellas with no mental health assessment. So the atmosphere is tense. We climb a lot of stairs in there, up to our beds. The accumulative wear down, day in and day out. In a lot of cases, guys are carrying everything they own. You're woken up at 6 a.m. You have a choice. You can shower, come out soaking wet, and catch the last half hour of breakfast. You choose to do yourself up. By the time you get through breakfast and out of the building, it's some 30 to 40 minutes later, anyhow. You're sweating. And you're coming out right on the curb. And that's it for your day. This is the day. Guys go to laneways to block the elements. It's literally human beings fighting the elements. Because all of this that you see becomes inaccessible to us. There's nowhere you can go, especially with no money.
What's the rest of the day going to be for you?
You have a day with no itinerary of anywhere to go. You tell me where you're going to go. It's almost difficult to put yourself in this position unless you're here, because you have a whole world of things to do today. Or that list that's there. I no longer have that list. I don't have that list.
Break me down, it won't break me down, break me down. Oh, yeah. Whoa, yeah. Oh, yeah. I can see everything. Oh, 'cause I can see through rain. Oh, I can see that everyone. It's around the same. It's around the same.
It sometimes is easy for a man on the very bottom to see all as it is for a man on the top. Because the man on the top, all he's got to do is look down. Man on the bottom, all he has to do is look up, he's on the bottom. And we see where it wrinkles out, and we are most definitely being shut out.
Locked down from life every day. Till you can see through it. Till you can see through it.
Get this one, I'll give you a good one. Want to see a good one? Grab this one. I had the need to feel, to be, and the creator of sound is the way I see it. I go to the sound. The grunts and groans and the color of the day of the sound. Sound that comes from somewhere inside. What a singer, songwriter does with his guitar or his vocals, those things are neurological. They come secondary. What comes first is what comes from inside.
I just
think that you're pretty.
Just wanted to say thank you. That was really
Thanks,
great.
yeah.
All right, we're
Yeah,
gonna
well,
talk
thank
soon.
you. Yeah,
All right.
well, nice, thanks. Peace, my sister. Yeah, nice.
That was Anthony and friends.
Rock star, you got a rock star up in here.
And that was our brother Anthony VanZant. He should be joining us here in a few minutes. We've had a little bit of technical difficulties. And I say that like that because there's a video of this guy who was saying he had technical difficulties. And he had a beautiful accent, but it was a very heavy accent. And he tried to say technical difficulties, and it was hilarious. Anyway, that's why I say that. You know, R. Jones just put something in the chat, and she says, this piece should inspire us all to reach out to the downtrodden. Yeah, and when he comes in, I think you guys are going to be amazed at his story. There's another song that we are going to listen to by him that he asked us to play. And, you know, all of his music, we have, I said this before a couple of weeks ago, that we have an entire playlist for Anthony here on the Lockhart Perspective. So you can go down there, click that, and it'll let you know him a little more. He's a lovable person, and I'm just glad that he's in our lives, right? So here we go, folks. We're going to go ahead and play one more, maybe two more, who knows? But he'll be here with us in just a couple of seconds. Until then, let's listen to him at what's called the supermarket. Now, this may be one of the songs that you've already heard. However, it is a live rendition, and it's just straight off the, as he says, off the hop. So here we go.
Lovely I say. I'm gonna read you a tune with a little help from my friends. Missing one. Missing a bunch of you, really. The guy said to me, man, he said, Anthony, where are you from, man? I told him I was from the Towns. Do a story about that jury, the 2-minute call, and walk away.
Make sure we got it right. Let's see if we got it right. Give it an original tune. About some men and women I know. You know my face and I know theirs. That's the truth. Some men and women are the unfortunate few. You know, one green shoe, one blue shoe. Those that never really had a chance.
That's good stuff. I'm going to pause that right there. And what do you guys think about that? Absolutely good stuff. Now, he was here in the backstage with me, and he got kicked out. Something happened with the phone system, and it's obviously because people, the Bible says that we don't even wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, wickedness, rulers in high places. And we all know that the high places is the atmosphere, anything dealing with freedom. I talked to him the other day. He's fine. Anything dealing with the air, with the radio, with transmission and all that stuff. Yeah, that's the deal. So it's no shock that whatever happened, right? And so, yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys that. So he should be here shortly, and he is here. Hallelujah. Yay. We're so happy to see you. Can't unmute because the guests chose to mute themselves. Okay, well, there he is.
My Lord.
Oh, we're so happy to see you.
Nice.
Great music, an excellent story. We have watched the documentary, and I just want you to just go. I'm going to shut up, and I'm just going to let you go. I want you to just start out. Now, the one thing that I would like to say is we did watch all of those videos where you are literally in different places and singing and playing the guitar. Are all of those like planned visits, or are you guys doing like we used to do back in the old day, just jam sessions? I know you mentioned come on up and play, but tell us about that and tell us what you want the people to know.
Interesting stuff in relation to the play. It was so much like life's learning curve, how, generated via faith that the music changed, like my life changed, and everything became impromptu. And because I said no to things in relation to creative endeavors a lot more than I said yes, after falling to the curb and championing the curb, so to speak, and saying no, my rehearsal became live performance and or in the tunnels. That was my rehearsal space too. That was my writing space and performing space. So impromptu, a house guitar and a house band in a new room. I mean, I just love that stuff. Absolutely. So this organic unfold of that play, that unfettered, unfiltered, impromptu, raw, real, where the truth lay in the play and our expression, and that seemed to carry the message of, the live off the floor play was similar to the outreach advocacy, which was the message was about to those who were unheard, because both of them were hand to mouth, live off the floor and or assistant folks in advocacy and outreach and so forth was hand to mouth, and the play was live off the floor. So I mean, there was really no room for, the technological left at the fork in the road, I say, that I discovered all along the way to saying no. And that came out in its play. It's impromptu. Had to be.
So it's all impromptu. Just you guys just, meet up, or you just go like you say,
No,
and it's just done.
interesting, because through the transition from the curb to, long story short, I had fallen to the curb. I hadn't played for a couple of years. This is 12 years ago. And, it became a journey of this became a vehicle. The play and getting my chops back. It took 3 years to get my chops back. 2 years I was pretty much had my chops back. By 3 years I had my chops back. I set a record from one of the shelters in the area, in the downtown core of Toronto, for every morning up at 5 a.m. into the shower, do my push-ups, into the shower, shave, out into the tunnels by about 7 a.m. and get the morning rush hour. Then I hit the music department of University of Toronto, which is this 200 plus year old university creative building of their music department, 5 floors of just wow factor. And then I would get the rush hour traffic in Tunnel Run around 4 p.m. to about 7 p.m. Then I would hit the club circuit, and I would play through the club circuit till 2 a.m. and get the very last, till about 1:30, and I would make the final bed in a shelter by about 2 a.m. If not, I would, at times in the early days, back in the day, you'd catch me sleeping in a laneway behind one of the clubs that I played at because of missing curfew. But generally, I was 99.9% is hitting that curfew and hitting that cycle again up at 5 a.m. So I knew that the cats that played the circuit of the city. I played all the clubs, all the certainly all the open mics, a lot of events, um, and so I had that that 9 to 5, so to speak, live off the floor busker from the tunnels and curbs of the city. Mostly the tunnels. I like because I sang, so tunnels is like singing in your washroom. You get that instant playback and recoil of the off the sound hole of the guitar, so you can pitch to it. Because you'd have to find a way. It was a discovery just learning how to play in the tunnels because you're not wired up, and
Oh, we lost his feed. Oh, gee whiz. But did you guys hear what he said? He said that he lost his chops altogether, his ability to sing. And it took him 3 years to get that back. But did you hear about the discipline that he had? He said that he would get up while he was at the shelter. He would shower, he would do his push ups, he would shave, he would do what he needed to do, and then he'd end up at the music department at the University of Toronto. He said floors and floors of nothing but beauty. I mean, and I know I would just be completely a pig in slop if I could go to the music floors of my old university. Because, man, I just know that feeling. It's like being there in a library for people who love books. Just you got access. But listen to how smart he was. And I'm going to mention that. Hopefully he can get back on here. But I'm going to mention that to him. How well thought out it was for him to literally get up in the morning and start. Oh, Anthony, hey. Okay, so I was just saying how brilliant it was that you would literally get up, start your day from the shelter, taking care of self-care, because a lot of people, have this misnomer that when we are homeless or when we're down or whatnot, that we don't bathe or that we don't do X, Y, or Z. But you got up, you had a plan, you took care of yourself, you got your exercise in, and then you went. But you had some place to be, and you went and you were there all day. You did what you loved, like you say. That was like your dressing room, as it were. And then after that, he said that he would go and play at the clubs. And did I hear you say that you ended up being behind the club because you missed curfew? You ended up having to sleep outside of the club one night. Did I hear that correctly? Because there was a lot of disturbance.
Yep, absolutely. And what I called my route. I'd have my route. I would, and it's interesting because this, it's an intriguing insight into that life and the creative arts to express it, give it the inertia to carry it through, and give it some depth to character to make something of the day, and where this ended up leading to, and where it came from just prior to that in relation to faith. Nonetheless, yeah, so I kept this route. My route would be I'd be up at 5 a.m. and I would I drank. I was coming off. Let's go back. Let's go 12 plus years ago.
Yeah,
12
let's
plus
go
years.
back. I wanted to go to that. Yeah, go there.
Yeah, how it entered into that, and what became something called Street Souls, and what ended up being, the number one documentary at the number one documentary film festival in the world. Um, what happened to that? What continued to go on with that? And what happened to that, which is lines up a little more of our contemporary day, what's going on in all of our days, which you can probably all guess by now. Um, anything that I always say, they look at music and that music making industry, that anything making industry is, where they package up humanity, and creative endeavors is obviously no different. And yeah, it's interesting where we find ourselves with face eyes to see. Nonetheless, so yeah, 12 years ago, I was in a relationship, and I was living a double life. So I'm a 58-year-old man right now, and at that point, um, you know, had, it turned out at 45 years old, I had 37 plus years of chemical addiction, as they say, in a 45-year-old body. Now, a lot of times along the way, you never know that, because I was weaned on, cocaine at the age of 7 in an orphan home. And, that monkey on my back,
Whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did you just say at 7 years old?
from the age of 7, it was so. In those days, I was living where I had been adopted. At this point, I was 7 years old, and I had an uncle living in the basement. We had a fair sized home, and it was a basement bedroom off a big rec room, but it had no door on it. He was a heavy smoker, heavy drinker. You know, once or twice, at least once, or maybe even twice, there was 2 incidents anyhow where I was actually in the car with my uncle when he got pulled over for impaired, and I had to be picked up from the police station as an elementary school child. Um, but in those days, these things, it was all intriguing. We would see this white powder on the dresser, and we would like play with it, and the whole uh, open door policy to this and the acceptance of it. Now it's interesting because the adopted family at first for a bunch of years were quite, um, upper middle class, doing well, and so all the other things were covered. So this was always overlooked because of the kind of, a lifestyle that I grew up where eyes weren't always on me the way they should have been. And these folks were, they lived a social life as well, and that sort of thing. So this, elementary school barely, well, high school didn't happen. Elementary school was a blur. I ended up going to work. Long story short, I got married along the way, had 2 kids. By the time the kids were 2 and 3 years old, my wife had mental health issues. She had a breakdown, was diagnosed as a manic, um, depressive schizophrenic. Eventually, that broke down, and I ended up raising the kids on my own from every day from that day forward, for the next, well, 34 years now. They're both on their way in their own places. They have their lives. My son is 34, my daughter's 33. But around the 12-year ago point, that I fell to the curb. My children were in their 20s. My daughter had just gotten her own place with her friend, um, and I did a nosedive. I fell as far as any man could ever fall, certainly as far as I could ever fall. I fell so far. I mean, one big Native outreach advocate worker back in the day, he dragged me out from under a bridge because I was smashing heroin in my neck. I was finished. I was a finished individual. I didn't see the inside of a guitar in a long time or anything else. And I would do this. I'd go for a loaf of bread and I'd come back for 3 days. And got to the point I was living this double life. I couldn't live like that anymore. I had a great woman in my life, but I had this problem that was now completely revealing itself. And I had a successful life up to that point. I was an earner in a lot of ways. And I did this nosedive. By the time I hit the ground, I was in the Skid Row downtown core of Toronto. And it's the bottom rung of life's ladder, absolutely. And I ended up at a men's shelter where I had a day. I woke up, Felicia. I felt so low that I barely had the strength to kill myself. I decided to do it, and I did decide to do it, and I decided to walk up the subway, which is a corner of Bloor and Lansdowne, in the city of Toronto. When I walked up from the shelter, it's about 4 blocks away, and I had my plan. What I was going to do, I was going to get onto the platform. I was going to call my adopted mother and my ex-wife, can't recall it. I had this plan that I was going to do, but nonetheless, I walk up there. I finally get up there. It was a workout to get up there because I was finished, and I felt I had more in the tank. The story will go on. You'll see that I had a lot more in the tank, but nonetheless, at this point, I had nothing to. I don't even know where I got the gumption to even think that I had anything more in the tank. Nonetheless, I had enough in the tank to get up to the subway. As I approached the subway building, this particular one, it had two outside glass walls. You could see through those glass walls as the people came up to the ground floor as I was approaching, coming up the escalator. And the person coming up that escalator was my daughter. And that's what stopped me from jumping in front of that train, because that's what I was doing. No two ways from Sunday. That's where I was going. Nonetheless, that's the turning around there. The next day, so I ended up going out with my daughter. We went and had dinner and turned that all around. I still had this problem. I had a huge problem, and I was a long time chemical addict, and this is now all finally after because I was weaned on it. You'd never know. You'd know when I wasn't, which wasn't very often at all. You came with all the colorful stories along the way too, all of the adjectives of it, the color of the day, as they say. Nonetheless, so the next day or days, within a day or two, maybe three, but in that period, I went into a Salvation Army because I knew that I needed recovery, and if they had spirituality. I probably would have called it religion then. Hopefully, I was calling it spirituality by then. It's such a blur that thinking back on those days. But I went into the Salvation Army and I knew they had instruments, musical instruments. I don't even know where I was even going with all that because I was finished. I go to the Salvation Army and I knock on the major's door. He was the captain then. I always remember his name because it's the same as the organs, Captain Hammond, Doug Hammond. I knock on
Wow.
his door.
Musical.
Yeah, they had instruments. And I knocked on his door and I told him my story. And they didn't. It was during the week and they weren't using their chapel. It's a big chapel, these Salvation Army chapels. They're not like a church chapel, like a Catholic church chapel with pews and so forth. Nonetheless, they're more seating with aisles, but they're large, and they have balcony flooring as well, and a big staging for all that they do. And I told my story, and I said, "You got to lock me in your chapel. I just need you to catch my breath." And he listened to me, and he went, "Okay." He unlocked the chapel, and he let me in. He locked the door behind me, and I walked the aisles of this chapel, and I just said, "Look at yourself." Like I went from crying to just not knowing what. And this went on for about 45 minutes or so, into an hour, and then all of a sudden, I just felt like, see, I could grasp God. I never really thought about grasping or not grasping Jesus. As a matter of fact, upon reflection, Jesus was more of what I called him then, I don't now, was more of was almost caricature to the cartoon illustrations in Scripture. But all of a sudden, and they had the stages of the cross on the walls too. But all of a sudden, I had this euphoric or this epiphany come over me. I could feel Jesus. I could feel every sunshiny day that I missed. Because as an addict, people would say to you, "Hey man, did you catch a day today? It was a really great sunny day." You don't even remember. Because that last 18 months of my fall, when I got my children on their way, was with a great woman, great lady, for for a while and then did this nosedive. Um, I, as I say, fell as far as a man could fall. This man could fall. And every bad metaphor to that caricature you can think of in silhouette of a character, I felt it. And from that moment forward, I felt the reverence to just breathing the air. The compulsion of addiction was eliminated in that moment, absolutely eliminated. And I just remember walking outside and feeling the gloriousness of the day, just appreciating again. I ended up picking up one of their guitars along the way. I had to do a little time for some things I did, and I did that. It was a bunch of months here and there that happened, and I did all that. And the chaplains in the church, in the chaplaincy, sorry, of the jail I'd gone to, the final one of the final ones, would come down and get me and pull me into the chaplaincy to play guitar to people. And once again, I between that, the Salvation Army, a day pass that I got where I would take a lunch break and go play at one of the big cathedrals in the city of Toronto for their homelessness program in the middle of the day. And I get my lunch break and I walk over, go play at this church, go back and finish this job that my friend had got me to get out during the day and then go back to jail at night. And this all played in the beginning to get a feel for it again. And once I landed, so to speak, in a shelter, say 10, well, about 11 years ago, well, 12 years ago, um, I getting my chops back was about getting my playing back. I was like machine gun play, absolutely spiritual autopilot, I call it. Nonetheless, I from the shelter, I went into the tunnels and into the clubs, and everywhere I was playing, all I know was I was getting this miraculous reflection. It was uncanny. I mean, you'd have your head down, so to speak, you're playing, you're zoned out, and somebody walked by you, and you'd feel peripherally they stop, and you know you've got that person. And they would just have to swing around and come see where that was coming from. And this reflection and the newfound faith, one creator and through Yehoshua nowadays, and in the shelters, I would do church floor basements through the winter, where there'd be 200 men in a church floor basement, a different church floor every night. They would have no rubber on the wheelchairs. They'd be urinating in the corner. They'd be full of filth. They'd be talking to themselves. And the church ladies that used to take care of us all as folks, because during those days is when the fog was lifting in my life, and as recovery came into my life, and as I say, the fog lifted, I just had to say something about what was going on here, because I had heard of, low-income housing and different things, but I had never seen anything like this. And the church ladies were so inspiring. They'd swab the decks of, all of us. Just, I mean, just the picture you can paint in your mind is exactly the cliche. And that silhouette, once again, what that would look like. So I got driven with these three, the combination of this epiphanic moment I'd gone through, newfound faith, the drive for recovery, and giving voice to those that didn't have any voice on their own. I thought if just somebody could hear it. The only vehicle I had of that was the guitar and writing songs. So it all became about that. It became a mission of what I called in one word, the unfortunate few, which then became a parenthesis on that, which was the unfortunate few in all of us. Which, you can know somebody in that position and or feel for somebody in that position. So we're all kind of in it there. And how, had we have done something truly about homelessness, Toronto did $70 billion in the last year and a half, didn't touch a single outreach van to even give somebody a sandwich. If we had to handle that stuff, what kind of a COVID situation would we have now, for example? Or would we have one at all, for example? seems, and this whole picture has continued to swell out. Nonetheless, you know, playing in the tunnels, I remember sitting there at one point, and I just knew because of the reflection I was getting that they were coming. I didn't know who they were, but I knew that they're coming for me, and I'm going to get an opportunity here. And I was going to give voice, but some other voice as well told me, you know, you get those spiritual benefit of hindsight, so to speak, where I said, this time, in relation to the creativists of the world, we were going to say no to their dollar and to their duality and to their exploitation and shell game and justifying the means and survival of the fittest. Because this mission I was on fit into me first before they came a calling. And recovery was now taking hold completely, and faith was guiding my day. And I went on a journey and a half, which I always say that, you know, that's a whole journey and another half a journey. That's a lot of journey. And what then transpired with that, you know, this reflection continued. They did come. They continue to come, interestingly enough, um, within the creative endeavors and within the legitimate word within the advocacies and outreach advocacies that I generated called Street Souls into the nooks and crannies of the day, as I say, feeding folks with nutritional GMO-free food in the thousands per week, sometimes thousands just over a day and a half, full sittings to, as I say, the truest of outreach that connects advocacy to then get folks to those doors they're unable to get to because they can't carry a sentence like you and I. What ended up happening is that, as well, is now carrying that message as what we need to do now, for example, in the city of Toronto. They sat in full city council today and they spoke about affordable housing, they call it. Sounds good. And they talk about homelessness. The conversation over about a 3-hour period turns into they have to cover for all the people in the hospitality and hotel industry that are about to lose their jobs over the next 90 days, and they're going to need to house those people. Those are the affordable housing in the city of Toronto, for example. It doesn't touch on those ones that we step over in the street, and the thing of it is, I say we do something about that, and we'll do something about the rest of it, as we re-inject, interesting word, integrity and dignity and humanity back into, you know, that word advocacy. Those folks, stepping over others is stepping over ourselves, and silencing others, as we see now in our contemporary technocratic day. The censorship of that, censoring others is censoring ourselves. And, all of that cancel culture that gets us to self-censor for it, because we are divide and conquer. You get into the more caricatured conversation of the day of, you know, that third party that we all speak of. You think of divide and conquer now. You and I aren't going to come up with a plan to divide and conquer ourselves. The very idea in and of itself is generated by others that, you know, at times don't have our best interest as an equal piece. I wouldn't say it hard or any cliche. As an equal piece in all of that. And all that gets lost in that silencing. The advocates feel it because I tackled them all from here to the Prime Minister's office, and in the creative world, you have the same sort of thing going on. Oftentimes, it's the same speech in a boardroom with in relation to program agencies and programs and protocols to the marginal community as it is. Same fellas in the same boardroom of the funding streams and nonprofits of the advocacies that in the city of Toronto, so many nonprofits nowadays have become, you know, not to be slang, but you know, drug dealers in a sense that they deal with the big pharmas of the day, and you know, they've cut out the middleman of folks having to find their way to safe injection sites and the opioids and all of that. The city is now works directly with the pharmaceutical companies and passes that off onto the nonprofits that roll it out with, you know, vaccinations and they're opioids on the day, and their their packaging rigs and so forth to do it. And off they go onto the laneway. It's the outreach advocates that come and clean all that up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Those people, and bridge them in the middle of the night into transitional housing, follow them up and case manage them as we do into housing lists, ID programs, get their tax returns done, get them all in order to be connected to housing for that follow through. It's not done by any nonprofits in the city of Toronto or the city itself. And this is kind of a bigger picture of where this has gone within the advocacies and the creative arts as we opened out as that and endeavors that had to say no so often along the way. You and I were just talking, and I won't mention the name of who, but an individual that was looking to, let's say, reinvent themselves, and they weren't the most upstanding. I believe we both agreed on, and were attaching themselves to trying to the Lockhart's perspectives in earnest, faithful signal on the day. Those folks that gratitude and face eyes to see that, and the miracle of just being upright in this world, not bad.
Wow. I just, you have said so much that I just didn't want to even interject. There's so much purity and so much, as you say, raw, real, or real, raw, real information that you
Mm-hmm.
just passed out. Now, you know, the one thing that got me was where you mentioned outreach and advocacy. And you know what? I never really thought about the fact that there is a lot of outreach, but you very rarely see any advocacy. And it's ignorant to even think that we could have the outreach without advocacy, because you figure even when you're trying to reach souls, you want to disciple those that you have brought in. Would you say that having just the outreach and no advocacy is akin to something like that?
See, so the outreach without the advocacy, if you're going to give them a sandwich and not now case manage them, get their information, follow them up, whether it's from the 10 flat, laneway, shelter, church basement floor, the outreach must be connected to the advocacy. The advocacy now walks those that are unable to carry it, to do it on their own, to get there to those doors they need to get to on their own, and often can't carry a sentence like you and I. They're not the drug addicts, they're not the dealers, they're not the outspoken. These are the ones that have issues and slip between the cracks. The marginal community itself is the smallest demographic in the community to begin with. And even smaller is those that are unable to get out of the laneways for one reason or another. We have routes of hundreds of people, many hundreds, and touch thousands a week, but hundreds on a daily basis. As we comb all of those nooks and crannies behind the clubs where I used to play, continue to play if it wasn't going on what's going on in the day. Although we have a few things coming up that will once again touch on the live off the floor impromptu play, but nonetheless, without outreach, without advocacy, an advocacy that doesn't leave the office or is virtual, gets into a whole other area of, oh boy, where do you go with all that? First of all, you can't outreach people who don't leave the office, but why do they not leave the office? Let me take a
Exactly.
shortcut on that. The only thing uglier than some of the photos and visuals and captures from all along the way, the creative endeavor ones you've shown, and so grateful to voice and all of that you have. And the captures all the way that those, like I say, the unfortunate few. The only thing uglier than that I discovered was the reasons of why. Because you know what? I combed all their boardrooms, combed all their city halls,
Mm.
combed all of their nonprofits, I combed all of their CEOs, I combed all of their medias. Because this creative thing that was pulling on gave it the spiritual leverage to get into all the nooks and crannies of the biggest billionaire builders of the city. the largest, the Bell Globe medias of the world, telecommunications giants, proffering deals to backdrop this creative. They'll grab, um, you know, um, 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 significant voice to attach their message every day of the week, as you know, Felicia. And but what that gave eyes to see and to apply within the currently right now, it's interesting because just today there was a Toronto City Hall, as I say, full council meeting. And um, what I'm working on right now is a documented study project, which will um, capture in real time that outreach we're speaking of to the faces and those in real time that cannot get out on their own. The outreach, the advocacy that's connected to that within case management, and where that integrity and dignity is needed in our community to take care of the rest of the things above ground, so to speak. That's how integral I think it is. By leaving that there, you won't get any integrity and dignity into the technocracy without having it in the community to begin with. You can't make that recalibration, that reset, that flip, whatever you want to call it. That's why the technicals and the virtual doesn't have it. It's kind of like, standing in real time, face to face. Our instincts and intuitions are all at play. Our life experience, all of that. Many spiritual censoring that would blow the technicals away. And I've seen my fair share of technicals, and all of that. Within our construction and software and our telecommunications traffic. I really got into it and got into it and got into it and got into it in so many areas of all of this. It's really found its way so spiritually apropos into where we sit right now. The ugly wise and at least an equal piece in that solution, which is our integrity and dignity is lacking, like censorships we all talk about, all of that stuff. Then the lack, missing humanities within the technological deck. If the middleman is in on everything. Censorship is really breaching your civil liberties in Canada, our charter rights, although we have a Bill of Rights like you do as well. These are essential to giving voice for others. We cannot give voice for others. We're living in this paradigm right now that backs us into our living rooms, and that, once again, middleman that is then censoring the only voice we have, which is the electronic, wireless, nowadays millimeter wave, more and more every day. That, not to mention the uptick of that in our day. There's carcinogenic, blood-brain barrier properties within all that conversation as well.
Absolutely. And I do want to let everybody know, because while we were away and not able to be on the screen, we did play several of them, but one in particular that is my favorite now. And I want you to set this up for us, because we're right now at 1 hour and 5 minutes, and this really went by fast. I would like for you to set up For Always Meant for Me. If you could, because I'm going to play that again. There's a lot of folks that possibly missed it, but if you're like me and you love the song, you can listen to it 1,000 times. Okay, we lost him. So he should be back in a second, but just to his point, I'm sure I'm going to let him, when he comes back, he will explain the song, but we're going to listen to it one more time, because the testimony behind the song is amazing in and of itself. So this song is For Always Meant for Me, and this is Anthony VanZant. So let's click away. I need to get another mouse because this is crazy. Click. All right, yeah, we're going to listen to this again. There's a great story behind this, so here you go. I want you to just take a second, and I want you to set this up for us. It's still playing softly in the background. I just want you to set this up. We miss you when you left out, but I want everyone to hear the backdrop to this story about this wonderful eclectic music you hear. But I want you to take 2 seconds just to let them know what they're listening to and how it came to be, and then we'll get right back into the track.
Okay, so I'm going to lose signal very shortly, so it's very spiritually apropos. So I'll set this up, and hopefully I'll be able to finish listening out to the show on desktop. I'm doing a little bit of juggling as I do here on the everyday, and what's wrinkled out, and as I say, where it all wrinkles out. And we see that in our technological day. This for always meant for me. It springboarded prior to that clip you had seen in relation to the documentary film Low Down the Tracks that, as I say, premiered at #1 at Hot Docs in the city of Toronto in 2015.
And that's
After
the
11,
documentary we just watched, right? The
yeah,
26 minute. Okay, okay, okay.
that was that. That was one of the trailers. It had a bunch of trailers. The first trailer within about 10 days had 6.5 million views, and all these things were removed along the way. Long story short, with Low Down Tracks, the documentary film, it ended up springboarding feature films right across the country. As I say, premiered #1 at Hot Docs, hundreds of films, a week and a half of it went head to head against Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love's documentary on Kurt. And this film came out of nowhere. And as I say, it's interesting because as the advocacies went headlong and the politics came out in the day, and all those within the bright lights and big city of it, for example, Rockefeller Foundation had put $200,000 into that film, and then you see the way the creativist, butting of the heads and the establishment of all that, it turned it into more of a message about all of our silencing and what we sit in nowadays. And for always meant for me was about this young girl that she was struck with an illness. We had all known her, and she was very, very wise little one. She never got past the age of 7, and she said to me, I know what's going to happen. She knew what was going to happen to her. She was not well, and all of that. And she told me that it's okay, that it it was always meant for me. She said, and it struck me in all that way. And
So the
one of
baby
those,
said, for always meant for me,"
yeah,
in one, oh wow, in one
yeah,
sentence.
yeah,
Wow. 7 years old.
yeah.
Oh, okay, go
But
ahead.
she said, "What's about to happen to me?" She said, "It's okay, Anthony. What's about to happen to me was for always meant for me." And it's interesting, where are the things you hear, the mouth of babes, as they say, but that was, one of those moments, and this child had, a number of uncles from the curb, we used to call ourselves, as we all watched over her and her family and what they were going through. And interesting, once again, that curve and that real impromptus we were talking about the other day, it really, cuts to the heart of humanity, relaying of the story, and, you know,
Yeah, and the
um,
baby was a family who was a curb family, as you call, from the curb. She
right,
was one of the families. Hmm.
the friends and folks and faces you meet along the way. Um, it's interesting because with, all that was turned down along the way, given the exploitations of the day. And I mean, we've seen that with the film as well. There was folks who were in backdrop of that film that never got as much as a cup of coffee, never mind consent form. So, this film was something they really wanted to put out. So like I always say, the spiritual leverage of that, all even the outtakes and raw footage of that had to be, um, um, I had to get all copies of all of that stuff because it was interesting the way you watch within the internet, stuff that would be attached to things that you had no idea that were out there, even in such a humanitarian film. So it showed that side of it too, which gave another insight of eyes wide open as to, where to, inject our creative endeavors and not when you're giving voice to others that don't have a voice of their own.
So you
Important stuff.
never, I have to get this out here based on what you just said. So you never got paid a penny, and they never even got so much as a a release form, which is something that we in the entertainment business, we're used to those. So this has just gone viral, and
No,
and,
see,
and
no. See, no, the film itself, no, I got covered all the way.
okay,
I'm
amen.
the only
Okay,
subject that can play that film for life. I'm the only subject with all the material.
got
The
it.
only subject,
Okay, had to get
no,
clarification.
and
Okay.
I held that carrot and stick back on them in relation to all the material and that, so that, and it still got exploited like crazy. I mean, just all of the producers of it, those that were in direction of it, sound engineers of it, production companies of it, TVO of it, hot docs of it. Um, it's, you know, the licensing of that goes wild when it's humanitarian. So the only way that it would make sense, I mean, I had 6 ways to Sunday. I could have sued for so much money in so many ways, but it would have killed the message. The only way to put it out was to put it out and not be compensated for it, and
Wow.
not be and beholden to within the advocacy world that I was pushing hard in, any of their charters, mandates, mission statements, ethos, and all of that that you sign up for to get their money. You can't even give a sandwich to a homeless person in a park as part of their protocols. I had to say no to all the nonprofit of it. We had to whip up all of this and resource this all on our own. And same within the creative endeavors. The only way to get it out where they didn't touch the message. I had all kinds of stuff come in and continue to, but it's always the same thing where they want to change the wording or be about this or connect it to that. Or you can't hold on to the subject matter. It loses the integrity and dignity of what the message is about. And then those
Exactly.
at the tail end of that don't get anything come their way. And then further integrity and dignity and resources lost. So
So all
all
of
of
the
this
authenticity is gone.
right. So in relation to street souls, I mean, it's as in earnest outreach advocacy as you get. Within the creative arts you're looking at, nothing there. I haven't uploaded a thing of any of that. These are folks that have uploaded these things along the way, and a lot has been pulled down because of the outspoken nature by which we bring light to a lot of other things with this voice in relation to where we're not being heard and why it's so important that we're heard. And what that technologically really means in our day, within the advocacies of our day, because it seems this word advocacy should be strapped to a lot of things. It's never there. It's not there within the racism problems in Toronto or the policing problems they talk about or any of the other problems. It's always the bullhorn comes out. It's never the advocacy in between that are so required. I'm working on a documented study project right now, bringing together on my own, once again, because you can't take a lot of dollars from these folks because they're, 9.9 out of 10 are exploitive or they're the dark duality of the day within the industry. And it's laced with it. And it matters very much where they get their money from or where they sit on boards with and all the rest of that.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Absolutely.
this documented study project will hit right on the head of what City Council is all about today, because they're gearing up for all the federal dollars to trickle down to Toronto to get money for affordable housing so they can begin to take tender with the builders and what's called the inclusionary zoning of our world that wires up the infrastructure technologically without ever applying any advocacy to the homeless people they're talking about in the first 30 minutes of the meeting. They don't get picked
Wow.
up in the slack of these supportive dollars and get completely silenced. And it silences all the legitimate advocacy and outreach along the way, or any dollars that way. Or although it's not about money.
Right.
And I don't take city money currently. I would love to if they were legit. I've had all sorts of things. If they were just, and I do my best within faith to bring course correction to those folks.
Well, let me
Because
ask you something.
it's all,
How, if I don't mean to cut you off, but I know
it's
that you shared with me that you don't have much juice left, and I
gonna
want to
go.
get this part out.
But you, it's you.
I want to know if we wanted to donate or to give to you
Absolutely.
or to help
Yeah.
support, how would we go about that? And I know that you're in Canada, so I don't know
Yeah.
how the conversion works. Educate us
Let me
on
tell
that.
you something. Yep. Just really quickly, in case we lose signal, and that's a whole other story in itself, my brothers and sisters. Absolutely, and so spiritually apropos. All of this, inclusive to the Lockhart perspective and my good sister friend, and queuing up and bridging folks. You can go to streetsouls.ca, and I'm going to continue to update that page, that very simple page. The relation, a few things are coming up, but you can put in your contact information. I'll contact you, and any way that folks can help
I'm
assist.
gonna type that in here,
Yeah,
Anthony.
and
That's
we're very
Street
transparent.
Souls.
We are transparent, dollar for dollar, where everything goes. And at the end of the day, it'll have to work itself out. Yet I found faith, and hopefully into the eternal spirit of my brothers and sisters through this material. What did I call it? This particular conundrum I sit in from a very appropriate bench. In the bench picture you see in that line that I is not line, but I
Yeah,
was
yeah, I saw
sitting
that.
there because I was already sitting in the ancient long lines of poorly motivated cahoots and
Mm-hmm.
contriving chicanery on the day. And that's what I was referring to, interestingly enough. And that church in the background, just by coincidence, about a year after that, became Street Souls. We had a safe space there for folks that we would sleep about 70 folks. We feed about 600 every weekend, or 700, 700 ish every weekend. Um, and um, the catch basin folks to then outreach them through that Street Souls safe space, online safe space, and reverse engineer that advocacy to the doors that they need to get to and follow them through, and became a real beacon to all of that inner earnest advocacy that's so required and is required in our bigger picture, as I say, in re-injecting integrity and dignity and humanity into the rest of the stuff we're doing that'll connect into, the esoteric of the day, and
Wow,
right, and people bridging
wow.
people just
So
bridging people,
I've
right.
typed in the chat, and I'm gonna put this up. It's STREETSOULS
F
.ca.
F STREETSO.
And I think that was a good answer because I know what he meant. SOULS.ca. So that's it. So let's see if I can go to that website right now just to make sure that that was it, because we definitely, I know, listen, I'm gonna say something. We know a lot of people who've been homeless. I've been homeless. I've never ever hidden that from anybody. Anthony has come and shared and poured out his heart to tell us, his story. But I want to tell you that I believe that his story is really allowing him to share it so that he can bring light to what is real and what's going on when you, like he said, walk past the people in the streets every day. So the most important thing that we want to do is to try to bless somebody who can help others. And this is where his heart is. As he said, hey, listen, yeah, I got taken care of for what I did. Well, a workman is worthy of his hire, right? So that's good. But we definitely want to, if we can, give a couple of dollars here or there. If we all took care of the homeless as the body of believers, as as the assembly of our Father, as the just as the whole. I want to say it, when you consider ecclesia, the church. If we did our gig, then there would not be a necessity for others to take in money that these people never see. How about that? That's it? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Our sister put that up for us. So there would be both of our mods have got it there. So you guys grab it if you choose to. If you can and you want to, please do. Because this is what the work is. This is the work. He was trying to let us know about some things that was going on there where he is, as it relates to the whole piece of that other the piece that we saw. Oh, he's back. Yes. Okay. So now, and we're going to go on ahead and play that. So now what we have is HTTPS, and then it's STREETTSOUL.ca. And both Rachel as well as Ronnie have put that in the chat. So Anthony, we are for always meant for me what the baby, 7 years old, who knew that no matter whatever happened to her was for always meant for me. And for a baby to say something as powerful as that, it gave me tears when you said it. It's giving me tears and choking me up now, because the children understand. They understand that what is. And whatever we deal with was always meant for us, because for us, with the knowledge, we know that our Father takes care of us and He designs everything we live through. And this baby had that to say. I know whatever's going to happen was for always meant for me. Anthony, I want to thank you for being here. We're going to play this song out. And yeah, you guys, not sure if there's going to be any issues with the documentary that was played. So we're going to more than likely turn this to where you can just get it on one of the other channels. You can definitely, if you guys already know that it's on Library and Odyssey, it's automatically being pushed over there now. So if you don't find this here, please share it from that platform so that others can get it, okay? And I'll deal with that on the back end if I have to deal with anything like that with relation to that video. Are we safe with that video, you think, Ronnie? Or Anthony? Or what do you think?
No, absolutely. I have all the rights for life to play that documentary in full. I'm the only subject that has that. Um, it
All
was in
right.
the film. Yeah, to play that
Y'all
for
heard
life.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We
I just
riding
want to
with
make
him.
one further comment in relation to Street Souls and
Please,
StreetSouls.ca.
please.
We're looking to bring together a documented study project that will bring together what was missing today in the advocacies and Reagan City Council and a lot of our cities in relation to an actual needs assessment of the actual situation of these folks so that we properly house them and bring this light to those that need that housing where the integrity and dignity lay in our rearview mirror. So this is what we're about doing, what we're about bringing further and bringing voice to the contemporary day that we carry with that as well, and a lot of the things that we all talk about, like I say, right up in our real-time day. So it covers a lot of ground. It's in earnest, it's transparent as can all be, and it's carried with faith and on soul sleeve, regenerated, as I say, in one creator and through Yehoshua, and a lot of gratitude for that. And I thank you, Felicia. I thank all your audience, all those good folks out there,
And we
and
thank you,
all
precious.
along
You
the way.
precious, precious.
Yeah,
We thank you. We
covering a
love
lot of
you,
ground.
Anthony. We love you. We like you with the sharpening of the
Mm.
pencils.
My Lord.
You and Rachel
Jack
got a
in the house, you. Nice.
you got a
My
lot of
God.
pencil dust around you. That's an inside joke for those who are in the chat. You all know
Yeah.
that he and Rachel sharpen the pencils.
Yeah.
But listen, I want to tell you
Mm.
from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you. I
Right.
thank you so much for your just organic realness. You know,
Right.
to tell your story the way that you do, to hear you
Mhm.
let people know that you
Right.
were just born and then adopted and then you went through this problem and then you know what I mean? For you to be that
Right.
real and that just that down to earth, beyond earth is a blessing for you to be here with us. So we're gonna go ahead. You all heard the setup for the song. We're gonna listen to this as we go out. Please utilize that link if you feel so led, knowing
Let me
that
make
it's a
one
safe
further
place.
comment if I can too, Felicia.
Say again, dear.
Let me just make one further comment in relation to,
Yeah, yeah.
praise and faith and all of that. When I fell as far as, this particular man could fall, as I say, it's interesting. And so spiritually, I propose, who's a better denier than a 37 plus year addict, as far as I say, denial in the day. The good Lord, the creator of it all, made sure that I was completely finished in my mind so that as He picked me up to continue on and all that's come because of that, that I didn't give credit to myself, that I knew where it came from and who picked me up. Because
Hallelujah.
without that, knowing for sure I was finished. The proof's in the pudding because all that's been generated since then, that I was finished. Without that, forget about it. But yeah, that, made sure that I knew that it didn't come from me. And
Hallelujah.
yeah, third person all the way. Interesting. Almost since them days, all in third person. As we, these immortal coil, as they say in our body machine, it's, finite. We only all get so many steps and all of that and all the truth of that, into the eternal. But yet, he had to be sure that I knew that I was finished and it wasn't an encounter of me, it was a finding faith.
So
So
you couldn't go and pick that back up. Once you were
you
finished, you were done, and he knew.
were gone. I was a goner coming from nothing in the curb, as they say.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Absolutely. That's faith.
Okay, brother. Well, here we go. We going. We going. I'm not gonna let you talk yourself to just keep going. Hallelujah is all I want to say. And this is for always meant for me, Anthony VanZant, with that sweet little story with the baby talking and telling him all the good stuff. So this is a good one. Here we go. And Anthony's gone, but the one thing I wanted him to let you know was they did this off the hop. There was no recording. It was no practice. They just did it. And that's what you hear on this recording.
All the times felt so sad and lonely. There wasn't just that one place I was so never alone. And all the time so low down dirty. There's still just no one place I could always call my own. For always meant for me, and I miss you. How can't you hear just how I miss you? And why don't it be what you have and you made me say your life and love, 'cause I just think that you're pretty. Oh, you think so pretty, and I just think that you're pretty. Oh, you think you're so pretty, I just know that you're pretty, and then I miss you. How can't you hear just how I miss you? I tried to tell you just what I'm all about, and I got you to listen. Didn't wanna make you shout, and I'm thinking back on all of the yesterdays, and the touching of your hand, smile on that face, for always meant for me, and I miss you. How can't you hear just how I miss you? For always meant for me. For always meant for me.
Like a perspective.